Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 4th day of April 2022. I'm David Percy. I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic showing a high wind watch there for the southern panhandle, and that goes into effect tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, and continues through Wednesday evening. And a strong storm system will be approaching the coast during the day Wednesday, moving in toward the south coast. And so expecting storm force winds in the marine areas, gales over the southern inside waters expected, like Clarence Strait, 40-knot winds there, and 50 to 55-knot winds along the coast. And public zones there looking for gusts above 60 miles an hour possibly. And that's it for watches and warnings and advisories around the state. So we'll just go to the headline here. Again, beginning tomorrow, transfer of forecast office responsibilities. And again, Anchorage to Fairbanks, Cantwell, Denali area, and Hooper Bay and Cheevac will now be in the forecast or the Fairbanks forecast office domain. And then moving from the Fairbanks office to Anchorage will be Mentasta Lake and Chisana. And then the new marine zone that Fairbanks will be working with. And for more detailed information, check the news headlines at the top of the National Weather Service Anchorage and Fairbanks web pages. Satellite pictures showing a storm rolling into Vancouver Island, weakening well to the south, the jet stream well to the south of the state of Alaska. And so that carrying all the heavy wind and precipitation into the south there, into British Columbia. And just some clouds reaching the Dixon entrance area. Otherwise, a dry day with a fair amount of sunshine across the panhandle. Some lingering showers along the North Gulf Coast with some moisture associated with a trough that brought some light snow across south central Alaska today, and some of that up into the Tanana Valley to a certain extent. For example, about half an inch of snow fell at the Anchorage International Airport during the morning hours today. And about a half inch or so around Homer. And Independence Mine, though, picked up about an inch of snow. So pretty light snows around. Nenana, about a half an inch, and lighter amounts up over the Tanana Valley there. And also some areas of light snow extending along the mid and lower Yukon River Valley out to the deltas. Generally less than a quarter of an inch, nothing significant. Kind of a widespread snow shower condition out that way. But generally, storm-free, as you can see out over the Aleutians. Just a lot of cold air in place from the Arctic there, keeping snowfall levels down at sea level. And re-advancing the ice edge a little farther to the south around the Pribilof Islands. The heavier ice now about to make landfall on the north shore of St. George Island, with northerly winds back up to about 30 to 35 miles an hour in gusts from the Bering Strait across St. Lawrence Island, St. George, St. Paul, on down across the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Temperatures well below zero even into the afternoon across the North Slope and the Arctic coast, and really not all that warm there north of the Yukon River into the southwest interior. Single numbers in teens this afternoon, but milder over southern Alaska. And rolling this through again, you can see weak circulation in the Gulf of Alaska, keeping the rain and snow showers along the coast scattered around. But the northerly winds up to 50 miles an hour at Point Hope. Still pretty windy there along the western Arctic coast, northwest coast areas down into even the Seward Peninsula. Golovin had a north wind or northeast wind gusting to 35 miles an hour. And again, 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts I mentioned for the eastern Aleutians with snow showers there back up toward the Pribilofs. And weak low pressure just south of Prince William Sound. You can see some weak high pressure made for a dry day, light winds, and partly mostly sunny skies across all of the southeast coast. Scattered snow showers, I mentioned, up over the Tanana Valley area, and earlier today across Cook Inlet in the south central Alaska zone. But again, amounts pretty darn light, and just a little bit of moisture scattered around the Arctic coast with that weak low. That'll continue tonight. Weak low pressure right off the Arctic coast there. So anywhere from the north slope in the Arctic coast, there's a chance of snow showers with variably to mostly cloudy skies. And there's also a chance of snow and snow showers due to a couple of lows over southern Alaska at the surface, along with an upper level trough that's across the western interior. And that keeps cloudy skies. Chance of snow again, southern Alaska, rain or snow, North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island. Southwest flow across the Gulf of Alaska there pulls moisture back into the panhandle. So look for the clouds to increase this evening, and then a pretty good chance of rain or snow showers from Dixon Entrance all the way up to Yakutat. And for Tuesday, tomorrow, rain or snow continues. A couple of trough surges of moisture coming up from south, taking a turn to the northeast right into the southeast coast and continuing north into the North Gulf Coast and southern Alaska. So that keeps it cloudy and unsettled across the southern quarter of the state. And then not much north of the Alaska Range, just some clouds, and then breaking out to some mostly clear sunshine. Yukon Delta, Nunivak Island, northern Bering Sea looking really good. Snow showers and permafrost with clearing skies. Wind stayed northerly there, and so temperatures definitely staying below freezing. Snow showers there as that cold air comes out over the open water and picks up moisture. So from Adak to the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, look for a pretty good chance of snow showers throughout the day Tuesday. And then for Wednesday, that next big storm approaching the southeast coast, so high wind watch there. And again, storm warnings out currently for Wednesday for the central and southern southeast coast with gales on the north coast and even gales over the southern inside waters in the forecast currently. Look for gusts possibly above 60 miles an hour with that system over the southern panhandle. Otherwise, dry for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Eastern interior looking good. Light winds, partly to mostly sunny skies. Dry for the north slope and the central and eastern Arctic coast. And a trough over the western interior will keep a chance of light snow from the western Arctic coast all the way down into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, but looking pretty good out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Lows tonight below zero from the central interior of the Arctic coast with the coldest readings of 15 to 30 below again. Say at Umiat Airfield could see 30, 32 below for the overnight low tonight. Otherwise zero there for St. Lawrence Island. Low of 5 for St. Paul. Upper 20s for the Aleutians. And upper 20s, lower 30s, south central Alaska to Kodiak Island. Highs in the Panhandle tomorrow, lower to mid 40s, near 40 for the Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin, and the Kenai Peninsula and Kodiak Island. Staying below zero, north slope in the Arctic coast down to the northern Seward Peninsula areas. And for the lows on Wednesday morning, 5 to 15 for the central interior, single numbers for the Kobuk, Koyukuk, and upper Yukon Valley with below zero readings from the Brooks Range, and then 10 to 20 below for the north slope in the Arctic coast, right near freezing for Kodiak Island, and 25 to 35 south central Alaska, and lower to mid 30s for the southeast coast, upper 20s for the Panhandle, highs 40 to 45 southern Alaska and the southeast coast. 30s for Bristol Bay, and right around zero now for the Arctic coast and north slope with temperatures pushing 40 in the greater Fairbanks area, but colder out west. Single numbers are.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, we've got IFR, north slope on out to the central and western Arctic coast, VFR for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and then a zone of IFR from the eastern interior, down across the upper Tanana Valley, in across the Talkeetnas, Susitna Valley, down to the North Gulf Coast, into the Kuskokwim Valley, and right on down the Kuskokwim River there to the Delta, to Togiak Bay, northeast Bristol Bay, Iliamna Lake, all IFR, and also northern Cook Inlet, Turnagain Arm, Connect Arm, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, Lincoln Glacier Bay, and the east side of the Panhandle. And VFR for Kodiak Island, that VFR zone working into southern Cook Inlet, central southern Bering Sea, marginal VFR, good VFR northern Bering Sea, Seward Peninsula, Yukon Delta to the Noatak Valley, and into the Kobuk and Koyukuk Valley. For the afternoon, VFR becomes more widespread, especially north of the Alaska Range, becomes marginal VFR for the Kuskokwim Valley there, down to the Delta, Kuskokwim Bay, but the Yukon Delta, VFR, north of the Alaska Range, VFR right to the central and eastern Arctic coast. Some lingering marginal VFR, but conditions are improving there in the western Arctic coast. VFR now from the Pribilofs northward to the Bering Strait, IFR with the next front pushing into Shimei 2, otherwise marginal VFR for the Aleutians, right up to the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and Kamishak, Kachemak Bays, VFR, all the way up to, it looks like, at least Nikiski, definitely for Kenai and Soldotna, VFR in the afternoon. Areas of IFR across southern Alaska, inland areas of southern Alaska to the eastern North Gulf Coast. Lynn Canal, lingering IFR through the day, but improving down south. And for the morning Wednesday, still IFR hanging over the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area, possibly as far south as Juneau. Marginal VFR on down to Prince of Wales Island, but VFR for the island itself to Dixon Entrance and off the coast. Coast Range, North Gulf Coast Range. IFR, marginal into the Copper River Basin, but north of the Alaska Range there for about the Fairbanks and Nenana area eastward to Eagle, south to Nabesna, VFR, but a swath of IFR there from just north of Togiak across the Kuskokwim Valley, right along the Kuskokwim Mountains there, or in the valley, on up to the southeastern Brooks Range. North Slope, mostly VFR. Northern Bering Sea, same pattern, VFR into the Kuskokwim Delta, into the Yukon Delta. IFR, Western Aleutians. For the afternoon, marginal VFR, Southern Bering Sea, all of the Aleutian chain right up into the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, and across southern Alaska, and then a band extending north across the Kuskokwim Valley to the lower Yukon River Valley area, and IFR in the Kobuk Valley. Otherwise, to the west, VFR, to the north, VFR, and to the east, VFR. Panhandle, some IFR down south, otherwise marginal. Kodiak Island, VFR. And Atuvik and Atigan will both be VFR, either approach tomorrow through the passes there in the Brooks Range. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, possible periods of IFR, but I think it'll be mostly marginal. Rainy, same forecast, marginal VFR for Windy. Isabel looking rather marginal. And Mentasta, optimistically, I'll go VFR for the entire day on either approach. And Tanita, marginal VFR. And Portage, starting out IFR, look for some improvement throughout the day, possibly hopefully becoming marginal. And for Chilcoot and White, looks like IFR the entire day on Tuesday. Freezing level, still not much to look at here with the Pacific Jet well to the south, and so we're definitely on the cold side of the jet stream, although 2,000 feet into the Komodorskis there. And looking at icing, just nothing really heavy, just isolated moderate. That'd be very isolated moderate mixed icing along the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, across south central Alaska, lifting northward slowly and then improving, but maybe a zone along the east side of Kodiak Island. And then just the elevated threat of some mixed icing for the central eastern Aleutians, as well as along eastern Bristol Bay there to maybe king salmon. And for the jet stream, northerly 65 knots over the western Bering Sea right across Adak Island. Otherwise, you can see the stronger jet south of the Queen Charlotte. And at 9,000 feet, northerlies 35 to 55 knots cutting across Adak and Atka. Otherwise, we've got southerlies to southwesterlies 40 to 45 knots from the eastern North Gulf Coast, right on up to the eastern Arctic coast. 3,000 feet, stronger wind staying off the panhandle there. And looking at turbulence, look for considerable moderate chop for the eastern North Gulf Coast to the eastern Alaska Range.
Can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, It may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at today's sea ice analysis, the heavier ice pack now down almost to the north coast of St. George Island. And with the northerly winds, it's probably going to push back down around the island there, St. George Island, and stay in and around the Pribilofs for the next few days. Looks like by the end of the week, some good southerly winds will move in late in the week, and that'll should push it back north of the even St. Paul Island, probably come the weekend, at least the way it looks at this point in time. And moving on to the coastal water forecasts, we've got southwest winds, 20 to 25 knots on the central and south coast. Small craft advisories on the north coast, south to southwest winds 25 to 30 knots, seas up to 14 feet. Small craft advisories for the northern inner waters for south winds 25 knots. And for Stevens Passage, south winds at 15, 3-foot seas there. Clarence Strait, also a southeast wind, also at 15 knots, but seas up to 10 feet. And then a big increase in the winds with that big storm coming in toward the south coast in the afternoon. Storm warnings out currently for the south coast. South to southeast winds increasing to 55 knots, seas building to 25 feet. Clarence Strait, gale warnings for Wednesday and Wednesday afternoon. Southeast winds increasing to 40 knots. Gale warnings for Stevens Passage. Northeast increasing to 35 knots. And full gales on the north coast for east-southeast winds 40 to 50 knots. And Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, small craft advisories, north winds 25 knots. North Gulf Coast tomorrow and the Barren Islands all out of the southwest at 20 knots with seas 8 to 11 feet. Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet, south to southwest winds at 15 knots. And Kamishak Bay, south winds at 15 knots with 4-foot seas. And for the day on Wednesday, Cook Inlet, northeast breeze at 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. Kamishak Bay, an easterly breeze at 15 knots with 4-foot seas. And for the western North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands, winds will be southeast at 15 knots. And then small craft advisories for the eastern North Gulf Coast for easterlies at 25 knots. Prince William Sound forecasting an east wind at 20 knots, seas around 4 feet. Kodiak Island for Tuesday, southwest winds 20 knots. Alaska Peninsula, west-northwest winds 20 knots. And Bristol Bay, west winds at 15 knots. Outlook for Wednesday, Kodiak Island, variable to south winds 10 to 15 knots, seas up to 7 feet. Alaska Peninsula, west-northwest winds at 20 knots, and Bristol Bay looking at northwest winds 15 knots, seas down to 2 feet. On Alaska Island, small craft advisories, northwest winds 25 knots. Unimak Island, northwesterlies at 30 knots, as well as Adak and Atka also looking at a northwest wind at 30 knots for the day Tuesday. West winds 20 to 25 knots from Amchitka to Shemya. And for Wednesday, 15-knot winds from the east and northeast from Shemya to Amchitka Island, Adak and Atka, light winds from the north at 15 knots. And the eastern Aleutians, north to northwest winds at 20 knots with 7 to 8 foot seas. Southwest coast, small craft advisories, north to northwest winds 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the Pribilof Islands, northwest at 25. And St. Matthew Island, north at 20. Brisk wind advisories for St. Lawrence Island for north winds at 25 knots. The outlook for Wednesday, St. Lawrence Island, northwest winds 15 knots. Same thing for St. Matthew Island, northerlies at 20 for the Pribilofs. Small craft advisories for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, northwest winds at 25 knots and northerlies at 15 for the Yukon Delta coastline. Central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, south to southeast winds 10 to 15 knots, northwest 15 for the western Arctic coast from Cape Beaufort to Wales, northwest winds 20 knots. And then on Wednesday, east winds 20 knots for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, central coast east at 15, southeast 10 on the west side, and northwest winds at 15 knots from Wales to Cape Thompson. For tonight, look for possible snow and snow showers with weak low pressure off the Arctic coast there. That'll come down across the north slope. South of the Brooks Range, basically dry, risk of a snow shower or two along the Yukon Flats. And then chance of areas of snow, mostly cloudy skies. Southern Alaska, rain or snow, North Gulf Coast. Some more moisture moves into the Panhandle under southwest flow tonight, and snow showers continue over the southeast Bering Sea, but begin to let up over the Pribilofs tonight and end. They'll give way to partly sunny skies for St. Paul and St. George northward to the Bering Strait. Otherwise unsettled across southern Alaska. And then on Wednesday, a big storm approaches the southeast coast with winds possibly gusting as high as 60 miles an hour, a high wind watch over the southern Panhandle, otherwise dry over the eastern interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.